All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Career Lab Wednesday. I'm your host, George Miller, and I am here to support you in developing in your career. Thank you, Jane. We are up and live now. So there's a few ways that you can engage in Career Lab Wednesday. I love it when you jump in directly on the Zoom link and I get to work one-to-one with you. If you can't do that, if you are viewing in through YouTube or through LinkedIn Live, you can type your questions into the comment section. Go ahead and type your questions into the comment section. But if at all possible, come into Zoom with me. I love working with you one-to-one, and I can, answer some questions, but more so is coach you and help you in coming up with creative solutions to things that you're working on. So you don't have to have a question that correlates exactly to this week's topic. You can ask any question that you have. Any question, no questions too small, no questions too big. You are, if you're working on your resume, if you're working on interviewing, if you're working on your relationship with your boss or with your team, all things are available, career related. The other category is relationship stuff around emotional intelligence. That comes up a lot for us at work when we are working on our relationships. So I specialize in social and emotional intelligence, having feelings be a gift for you, your feelings giving you great data, and really having them be the way that you're connecting with other people. First, connecting with yourself, emotional intelligence, then connecting with others, social intelligence. So that is one of the ways that you can engage with me, is you can ask questions about your career, you can ask questions about social and emotional intelligence. And of course, if you can join in on the Zoom link, go ahead and do that. If you have questions with what that is, just type into the comments, how do I join in? So today we are looking at how to enhance your career. Well, it's a pretty broad topic there. There's a lot of ways to enhance your career, but the way that I wanted to share with you today has a lot to do with what's in the way. If we're going to enhance your career, one of the simplest things you can do is to just remove some things that might be blocking you, that some ways that you might be getting in your own way. And a lot of this is going to come down to how you talk to yourself, and therefore then how you communicate with others. So if you've joined in before, you have heard me talk about the drama triangle. This is something developed by Stephen Cartman, student of Eric Berne. And the beauty of recognizing the drama triangle is that I'm able to identify ways that I'm basically getting in my own way. So I would love if there's anybody viewing in that has a question about this, about maybe it's, oh, great, we're getting some questions here. Oh, key elements to determining how well an interview is going. Great question, Kenneth. If you're able to jump in, please do. I'd love to work with you on this, and we could even do a little bit of a mock interview. If you're open to that, take advantage of it. If you can't join in, totally get it. So this is a fantastic question. What are some key elements in determining how well an interview is going? So I'll start off by saying that in an interview, oftentimes that person who you're talking to is not going to give you direct feedback in the moment. They're not going to tell you how you're doing. So knowing how to look for indicators that it's going well is incredibly important, because you want to build on that. It's like, okay, this is going well. I'm going to continue in this direction. Oh, that way I interacted didn't really land. So Kenneth, I'm going to talk some about strategy and see if we can't answer your question from a variety of angles here. And I might even bring in the drama triangle. We'll see. So when you're going into an interview, the approach that you want to use is that you are interviewing them. You're interviewing the interviewer. So you might hold as a way that to determine how well the interview is going is if you ask them a question. So obviously they'll look at your resume and they'll say something like, why are you interested in this position? And you can then say, oh, I have this experience with this. I've done this kind of thing before. And it looks like, that's what you're needing done in your company here, is, what I have experience with. And then you can ask the follow-up question of like, am I on? Checking it out with them, assessing to see if your assumption about why they're hiring for that role is on. So then right there, you can say, oh yeah, they might just agree with you. Great. You're in rapport, on the same page with them. They might say something like, yes, but actually we're also really wanting this. Whoa, so now they're giving you more information about the role. And that can be very helpful going forward. So if you notice that you ask them questions and they're responding by telling you more specifically what about the job, that's a good sign. That's an element of a good interview. Another thing is to really look for is if they ask you a question and you just talk about yourself for a while and you start to feel like you need to keep saying more and you're not sure, and maybe you might be thinking, wait, oh shoot, am I rambling? So that is a danger point. That's something to be aware of. It can happen in interviews where you are they might ask you a question and you start to give them your experience and demonstrating why you think you'd be a good fit for the role. And you can keep talking out of your anxiety without checking in with them, without seeing if they're really interested in hearing what you're saying. You have to say some about yourself, but at a certain point it can be a problem, because if you're talking and they're no longer really present and engaged with you, and they're just kind of being polite and just waiting for you to finish talking, well, that starts to be marks against you. And they might not tell you right then. If you're being interviewed by, I just picture like the boss of a small business who just is busy and needs to get through things. That person might give you the feedback and say, oh, I don't care about that. No, that's great. So you have experience with that. Wonderful. And then they might let you know that that you can stop talking about yourself. But that's not always going to be the case when you're interviewing. So an element of knowing that the interview is going well is that it's a two-way dialogue, that they're talking, you're talking. You're getting to know more about them. You're getting to know more about the job. Now, not everybody who's interviewing you is going to share about themselves as a person. If they do, that's a good sign. If you start to, find out a little bit more about them as a person outside of the organization and just, what they do or how they got into the company or any of that kind of thing, if you can find out more about them, that's a great sign. That will let you know that they're, in their understanding of themselves during the interview, there's two things that somebody interviewing you is looking for. That's behind every single question that they're asking is, does this person get stuff done? And do I want to work with this person? So if they're sharing a little bit about themselves and what they're doing with the company, and you feel that kind of like openness and warmth from them, what's happening for them is that they're saying, okay, I can work with this person. You know, they're interested in me, they're curious, they're open-minded. And so whether or not it's conscious for the interviewer, you are starting to get positive marks on it feels good being with this person. So Kenneth, I threw a lot out there in terms of key elements in determining how well an interview is going. Let me know if I'm landing, if any of this is helpful for you, and or if there's a more specific thing that you'd like to address. So I hope that that's helpful though. So great, and I see a question that has come in on YouTube. Great, another wonderful question here is, how can I improve my delivery in feedback sessions? I tend to come off as aggressive. That might make people feel defensive. Ooh. Oh, there's a lot there. So if you're able to jump in and share more about that, Jerry, I jump in on this link to come into the Zoom meeting. I would love to work with you more on that one. That's a great question. So how can I improve my delivery in feedback sessions? I tend to come off as aggressive, and that might make people defensive. Yeah, so I'll talk a bit about this. Learning new things as an adult, there's a challenge to it. Because when we're little kids and we haven't been socialized to, oh, good. Kenneth says this helps tremendously. Good. Awesome. Kenneth, good stuff. By the way, Kenneth, if you want to dig in deeper on this and you have a Android phone, we'll put a link for you to download the app that we are working on. It's almost ready to launch for iPhones and Androids, but if you have an Android, go ahead, download the app. You can start using it. Let us know how it works for you. And there's videos and worksheets and things that you'll be able to use, Kenneth, and build on the coaching that you just got now. So go ahead, and if you got an Android, and anybody listening in, go ahead and take a look at that. That is a tool that I'm just wanting to get in everybody's pocket. So back to you, Jerry, and how can I improve my delivery in feedback sessions? I tend to come off as aggressive, and that might make people defensive. Beautiful. So I was talking about children before being socialized. You know, a kid can be drawing something and screw it up, and they're like, oops, you're like, no big deal. Like, kids, really young kids aren't defensive. As a kid experiences more socializing, you'll tend to notice ways that a child will become increasingly defensive as they get older. And so it's not a question of, am I defensive or not? If you're an adult, you're defensive. Now, your defense mechanisms may be different than other people's, but everybody walking around, we all have our defenses. It's just part of being human on a planet where there's a bunch of beautifully imperfect people. So it's just a question of, how am I defensive? And so, Jerry, knowing that, and knowing that the people who you are communicating to are going to have defenses. They have developed defenses as children growing up through with parents and then into school as ways to help protect their sense of self. And that everybody has their own unique way of doing this. This is very much Adlerian psychology that I'm referring to, by the way, for if you want to dig in deeper, there's great material out there on this stuff. So if everybody has their own defense system, so then when you're talking to people, Jerry, and you're giving them feedback, knowing that everybody has their own defense system, this might help you see them as an individual more. And just that little bit of curiosity about how somebody might be and kind of, oh, who is this person? That right there can help to start encouraging people to let down their defenses. And so as adults, we all have defense systems, and getting feedback about a way that I can grow and develop is going to be uncomfortable for me. And when I say that, when I'm talking about myself, I expect everybody out there to be applying this to yourself, to say, oh, okay, how George is saying he's defensive when he gets feedback. I wonder how I'm defensive when I get feedback. So Jerry, again here, we're starting off with emotional intelligence, which is myself, understanding myself, how I function as a system, George, so that I can better understand how others function, how other systems out there are functioning. So, okay, back to this question of how to improve delivery in a feedback session, because I've gotten feedback that I'm aggressive, and that can trigger people's defenses, and then they don't really hear the feedback that I'm giving them. So, Jerry, first thing is to be aware of your own defenses. Be aware, just like in this question, this wonderful question. I so wish you could jump in and we could dig into this more, because it lets us know that you are likely defensive. Woo! You are likely defensive because you're getting feedback that you do things aggressively and make others defensive. Okay? So now, if you're able to look at and be with the ways that you're defensive and understand how you came to be defensive in those ways, and then really important part of this is to have some grace. It can be grace, or like, oh, I get that. I would understand why I would be defensive this way. And or a sense of humor about it. Like, oh my gosh, yeah. Wow, isn't that interesting? I was defensive and I didn't really see it. Once you do that, and you have that bit of grace for yourself, it makes it way more likely that when you're giving feedback to somebody on your team, that you're going to be able to recognize the ways that they're defensive, kind of like in the moment, and maybe from past interactions, be like, oh my gosh, whoa, I relate to the way that they're defensive. I get that, because I'm the same way. I developed some of those same patterns. So once you do that, you're able to have empathy. Very different than sympathy or pity. Pity never, if somebody's pitying me, that never feels good. But if somebody can have some empathy, and Jerry, by the way, you're not going to necessarily talk about this. It's like the kind of stuff we don't talk about. I mean, unless you're in a coaching session or, in the kind of format, but just be aware that this is what's going on. And then when you're giving that feedback, you're going to be more in touch with the ways that you've been defensive and more in touch with them as a person about how they might be defensive. And that's going to soften the blow. That's going to help them feel like you're in it with them, like you're partnered together in them becoming the best they can become, instead of what I'm imagining it feels like to them is, oh, there's something wrong with me. Great. I knew there's something wrong with me. Oh, I just can't get it right. Oh, geez, I thought I was doing this right. And now I've got Jerry telling me that like, I'm not doing it right. And in that space, the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn trigger has been activated. My sense of identity is at threat here, is being threatened. And so even if I'm like trying so hard to hear the feedback, because I know I have to, and I know it's good for me, I'm not really present anymore. I'm kind of gone. And so no matter what you say to me, as clear and accurate as you might be, I'm probably not going to hear it. But if you're able to be with your own sense of discomfort, your own defensiveness, that energetically and emotionally, this is invisible in a lot of ways. I mean, it's communicated in ways through eye contact and vocal tone. But these very subtle things, you'll start to communicate that. And that is one way that you can come off as less aggressive in your communications when you are giving feedback. And that might help smooth it over. Now, there is another thing that this is kind of like the big picture game. Now, there's a lot of little ways, a lot of little tricks of the trade, Jerry, that you'll be able to do. One is around personality style. And if you want to learn more about this, I do coaching and trainings in personality styles and helping you understand your own, and then understanding how to communicate with other people. Not just understanding what personality types other people are, but getting some tricks of how to adjust the way that you're communicating so that they can hear you. And Jerry, my guess is that you are a results-focused person. And when communicating what results you want, there's a few things you can do. Let's say you're talking to a cooperator, that's my personality style, and somebody who's very group focused on how the social feeling of things. What you can do, Jerry, is say, well, one thing is you can kind of like soften your face a little bit. You might even kind of tilt your head to the side and like nod and have a little bit of a smile on your face. And so if you're delivering some feedback of like, okay, well, as we're looking at this, we were thinking about how the things that you are doing are impacting the team. And right there, now you're talking cooperator language, because you're talking about the team and their impact on it. And right there, you've got my attention. I'm like, oh, okay, how am I impacting the team? And there's this subtle little things about kind of softening your tone and, showing a little bit of emotion. That's just a couple little tricks I'll throw in there. So anyway, if you want more on that, let's talk more about it. And I'll continue putting up YouTube videos and things on these social and emotional intelligence topics, so keep an eye out there. Great questions. So, oh wow, we are already coming up to the halfway mark, so I'm going to do a room reset. My name is George Miller. I am the host of Career Lab Wednesday. My job here is to support you in developing in your career. The way that I approach that is looking at your career as a pathway for you to reach your potential. There's a pathway for you to become who you could become. There's, things that you want to do and develop while you're on planet Earth. And the workplace is a place where we spend a lot of time and we get to have a lot of engagement with people and ourselves. And so it's a wonderful arena for personal development. And that is the thing, by the way, that research shows makes humans happy. It's not money. It's not candy, although chocolate makes me happy for a few minutes. But a long-term happiness is learning and growing, is me developing as a person. That's the thing that really has human beings happy. It makes us happy. So you developing in your career is a way that you will be building happiness in your life. So that's the overarching approach of that I look at the context around you in your career. Now I then focus in social and emotional intelligence, befriending your primary feelings such that you're able to notice more about the people you're interacting with and communicate more effectively with others. And that's the heart of what I do. So with that being said, there's a few ways that you can engage. I love it when you jump in here on Zoom. And if you can't do that, you can always type your questions into the comment section and Jane will get those over. Oh, Adolfo, good to have you here. Welcome. Welcome. Let me know if there's anything that you want to share, and if you've got any questions or anything that you want some coaching on. You're welcome to just talk if you're able to, and we can dig in. You can speak at any time. So that's a few ways you can engage. You can jump in directly on Zoom. You can also type your questions into the comment section. And again, your comments and questions don't have to anything to do directly with the topic that I have up of enhancing your career. I will find a way to correlate the two, your questions and the topic. So just ask anything career related or anything about social and emotional intelligence, and we can dig in. So, oh yes, Adolfo. Okay. Oh, I thought you were saying something. So I'm going to jump back to what I started sharing about in enhancing your career. One of the first things to look at is low-hanging fruit, is how am I getting in my own way? And this is actually beautiful. We can tie this to Jerry's question about defensiveness, because defensiveness, while it made sense as a kid growing up, none of our parents were perfect, none of our teachers were perfect. And so in that process, we developed defense systems that made sense for that time and place. Those same defense systems now, as an adult in whatever job, some of those defense systems are no longer helping me, and they're getting in my way of developing in my career. And so if we can start to identify those defenses that are no longer working for us, we can start to take risks to step outside of that defense. And one of the key ways that we play out our defenses is through something called the drama triangle. And in the drama triangle, there is a persecutor, a victim, and a rescuer. And the persecutor is somebody who is feeling like nobody's stepping up to the plate. That could be you, Jerry, when you are giving feedback of like, hey, there's these things that we need handled. You're not really handling them. And what a persecutor often doesn't recognize is that the person they're talking to has some gaps that haven't been identified. And so the persecutor is kind of expecting somebody else to just jump to a level of development that they don't know how to. And so that is it's a skill to learn how not to be a persecutor in those scenarios. Then it's so easy for let's say, Jerry, the person that you're giving feedback to could be seeing you as the persecutor, and then they could be playing out the victim role of, oh, Jerry's so mean to me. Oh, he doesn't get it, or he doesn't appreciate the ways that I'm insufficient. And so right there, now, as a victim, I can start having that victim mentality, which is ultimately limiting myself. And I want to make a distinction here. Crimes do happen. People are victimized. That is a thing that happens. But very often, there's all kinds of ways that I might assume that I'm a victim and kind of play out that role that aren't really true. And I'm keeping myself stuck by acting like a victim, by kind of, pretending that I can't grow, learn, and develop. I could totally talk about this with this process that I'm going through of ICF credentialing. And, when I get feedback about the ways that I am not demonstrating the markers, like each time that happens, I get defensive. And I'm like, no, but, and so, and then one of the first places I'll go is like, oh, this is too hard. I can't do it. And that's a sign of me acting out victimhood of like, oh, it's too hard. I can't handle it. And then you can see limiting beliefs playing out about me as a person, which the truth is, oh no, yeah, I made a mistake. Okay, cool. I can learn from that mistake. Great. Next time I'll do better. Next time I will implement this thing that I just learned. And so, that's something to be aware of. Now, the other point on the triangle is being the rescuer. So, as somebody who spent a lot of time in victimhood, I am very good at throwing out little signals to would-be rescuers saying, help me, help me, help me, but not really wanting their help. Really just wanting them to come in and rescue me, save me from something so that I don't have to learn it. Okay, so managers out there on your team and team leads and things, think about how many times somebody on your team isn't really doing their job to the fullest of what's expected of them, and how much you step in and rescue them. And then it's not like the point of them working there isn't really happening. And so they're acting out in kind of victimhood, and you're acting out the rescuer. And then you go to your supervisor and like, oh, but they did it. And now, you're kind of persecuting them. And so, great. We can start to see how all of this plays out. When we are in the drama triangle, we're not taking responsibility for what we could do, for who we could become. We're not authoring our own life. We are in a what's that word that I'm looking for? A default. It's like our default setting. We're just functioning, but we're not really conscious, and we're not really clear about how we're wanting to develop. So we can just go about things, we can do tasks, get stuff done, and be functioning within this drama triangle, oh, it's so-and-so's fault, and or, oh yeah, and I'll never be able to learn how to do that. And that, that's a choice, but it's not that satisfying. And if we're looking at enhancing our career, one of the easiest things we can do is identify where we're at in the drama triangle, how we're acting like a persecutor, victim, or rescuer in varieties of ways. And just being aware of that, just noticing how we do that, automatically then we start to see it, and we start to see how it doesn't work. And then we stop doing it. It's like, oh, well, that unconscious strategy of mine wasn't working. Maybe I can do this. Let me give it a try. Maybe I'll fail the first time. That's fine. We can fail at things. And so it opens us up to the possibilities just by noticing when we're acting like a victim, persecutor, or rescuer. And that is a way that one of the easiest things you can do to start enhancing your career is notice when you're in the drama triangle. And to tie it back to what Jerry's question was about giving feedback in a not as aggressive of a way, giving feedback in a way that invites the person getting the feedback to really hear and be with the feedback. This plays out that way because when I act like a victim or go to rescue somebody, those are defenses. Those are things that I learned how to do as a kid growing up in an imperfect world that made sense at that time. Me personally, youngest of the family, also I'm kind of an only child because there was a bit of a gap between the time I was born and the next in line. And so there's all kinds of beliefs that I have that I'm alone and on my own, and that I don't really matter, or everybody else matters a little bit more than I do. So these are just, things that are kind of core mistaken beliefs about me as a human being on this planet. And so the ways that then that would play out is in my family system, it's so easy for me to act like a victim because we're come from a bunch of good Christian Mennonite missionary people background. So, whole lot of rescuers there. So it's an easy system for me where if I'm feeling like I don't really matter, well, I can just go to some self-pity and just say, oh, I can't do it. And I got 5 people who are going to step in and do it for me. So, there you can see how that I could develop that belief of victimhood and use that as a way to try to get rescued, and then conflate that getting rescued with real caring, when in fact I wasn't. Real caring would be, okay, wait, let's see where George is at developmentally. What's he need to do to develop? And certainly that happened, but there's all kinds of ways that didn't happen. So this is sensitive stuff. I'm realizing this as I'm saying this because, come on, being a parent is the most vulnerable thing in the world. So any parents listening in on this is just, it's just part of being human and understanding that there's no such thing as a perfect parent. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. So this example of victimhood, the ways that I would develop this sense of victimhood, because I'm looking to get rescued as a kind of fake way of feeling like I matter. And, it's not really satisfying. And it doesn't really have me be an individual and know that, oh yeah, I'm able to work through challenges. I can accomplish all kinds of things. And so to develop that confidence, that internal belief, it's so helpful to look at the drama triangle, recognize where it's happening, and then say, oh, you know what, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to, believe in myself in this way. And yeah, I might make a mistake, but whatever, I'll learn from that mistake and I'll, get it right the next time or the fifth time, whatever. And then, so these defenses are all built into us. And being aware of the ways that we are defensive and the ways that we act out in the drama triangle, that is going to be a huge way for you to unleash your potential, to take off the brakes that you put on yourself in your career. Now, there are things that, brakes that make sense. Like you can't always say exactly what you think, that's just not, that's not the environment that we have. But there are certainly ways that you are putting on the brakes and using the drama triangle, using being a victim, persecutor, or rescuer. There are ways that you're doing that are slowing down your development in your place of work. And this is just true of everybody. And so the only interesting question is not, am I being a victim or a persecutor or a rescuer? The only interesting question is how am I? How am I doing this? Because once I start recognizing how I'm doing it, I'm just naturally, just out of, what makes sense, is common sense, I will stop doing it. I will come up with more creative ways of doing things. So this is all great stuff. It's all kind of heady too. And the way to really be able to see yourself in this is, to be aware of this concept, but then also to get feedback. This is a way that working with a coach can be incredibly valuable, because a coach's job is often to tell you things about yourself or offer observations about how you're interacting in the moment that probably nobody else would do. And so if that's something that you want to check out with me, you can sign up for a free 15-minute call with me, and we can assess, if continued coaching is a good thing. For more on this, you can check out the video that I have on YouTube. What I'm realizing on that video, there's a bunch of information at the beginning and at the end that don't really apply. So if you check out the video, you can skip ahead about probably 5-10 minutes. But if you're familiar with YouTube, if you're a familiar YouTube user, you do that with the videos that you watch anyway. So just putting that out there. And we'll get that link in here in a moment. So with all that being said, I'm just I'll start wrapping up here. Again, this is Career Lab Wednesday. I love it when folks jump in. Adolfo, sorry that you weren't able to get on and stay on. I wasn't able to work with you. Maybe there's a phone number or something that you could use through Zoom, because I know the video eats up a lot of bandwidth. Oh, thank you, Jane, for putting that in there. Yes. So this is Career Lab Wednesday. I am here every Wednesday, noon to 1 p.m. Central, helping you develop in your career. It is a place that you get to really challenge yourself in your development, and to use the interactions that you're having with people to develop yourself as a person and simultaneously develop yourself in your career. I invite all questions career related and all questions about emotional and social intelligence. And so take a look at the resources provided. And if you have any questions and you didn't get them in today, you can always message me on LinkedIn directly, or you can type your questions into the comments section here on LinkedIn or on YouTube, and I will do my best to get to your questions. All right, blessings, everybody. Go forth and notice yourself in the drama triangle. Have a sense of humor about it. Have some grace for yourself. And I will see you next week. Take care, everybody.